Welcome, students, to another lesson. In this lesson, you're going to be talking about the impact of the transatlantic slave trade on the slaves. Okay, so life as a slave on the plantation of the American South was more difficult than life as a slave in Africa. The hardships endured on the plantations were extreme. Men, women, and children over the age of 12 worked on the field for 18 hours a day. Slaves learned to develop strategies to cope with the hardships and they had to enjoy AJ, they sang songs and retold stories. So there were different kind of slaves on the plantation. The top positions were held by cooks, house cleaners, babysitters, washerwomen, and carriage drivers or personal slaves. These slaves worked inside the houses away from the harsh weather. Most slaves worked very hard on the fields from sunrise to sunset. Slave drivers and overseers often whipped them cruelly. They were given new names and their bodies were branded. Slaves had no rights and few possessions. They did not have much food. They slept in small houses and used coarse blankets on dirty floors. So slaves were not allowed to use drums in case they sent messages to other slaves to organize rebellions. They were not allowed to learn to read and write or practice their traditional religions. Punishment for slaves found talking back to the master, not working hard enough, or caught in a fight were vicious and extremely cruel. They would be whipped and beaten, starved, rode down a hill in a barrel with a nail stuck to it, placed in chains, or forced to wear a metal collar. Okay, so in a resistance to Christian missionaries' attempts at converting them, as well as an effort to overcome their own hardships and boredom of repetitive work, slave slaves organized their own services in which they danced, sang, and related stories. Many of these stories and songs reflected their own fears, values, and hopes. Okay, we've come to the end of this lesson.